The text arrived at 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, while I was elbow deep in a server rack that smelled like burnt coffee and someone's forgotten lunch from 3 weeks ago. I'm using our vacation fund to bail my ex out of jail. You understand? While you're here, don't forget to subscribe, hit the hype button, and support this channel with a like. And tell us below, have you ever faced something like this? Not a question, a statement, like she was telling me she'd picked up milk on the way home or remembered to pay the electric bill. Just a casual little update about stealing thousands of dollars to rescue another man. I stood there in the server room with my phone in one hand and a network cable in the other, and the weird thing was how quiet everything got inside my head. Not actually quiet, because Maya was still talking to someone about a router configuration 3 feet away, and the cooling fans were screaming like jet engines the way they always did, and someone in the break room down the hall was crunching ice between their molars with that specific annoying sound that made you want to snap a pencil in half. But my ears just stopped processing any of it. The world went muffled, like someone had wrapped my head in cotton. I noticed strange details. The smudge on Maya's laptop screen right in the center, probably from her touching it while explaining something to a user. The exact shade of gray on the server chassis in front of me, somewhere between storm cloud and concrete. The way the fluorescent lights hummed at a frequency that was just slightly off from comfortable. My hands were completely steady when I typed back. Family first. 2 words. That's all she needed to think I was on board with her plan. That's all it took for her to believe I was still the reliable boyfriend, the boring safe harbor, the guy who'd swallow whatever garbage she fed him as long as she smiled sweetly afterward and told him he was being supportive. I saved the chat immediately, screenshot, uploaded it to 3 different cloud storage accounts. Then I opened our shared savings account on my phone, the one we'd set up together 18 months ago with such optimistic talk about our future. $17,412. We'd been saving for a year and a half, scraping together money from every paycheck. Japan. That was the plan. Tokyo, Kyoto, maybe Osaka, if we had enough left over after accommodations and flights. She'd talked endlessly about cherry blossoms and ancient temples and trying real ramen from tiny shops in back alleys. I'd talked about finally taking more than 3 consecutive days off work in a row, about seeing something bigger than Boston and server rooms and parking garages. The account had both our names on it, but I'd put in 11,000 of that total. She'd contributed the rest in dribs and drabs, usually only after I'd reminded her 3 or 4 times that we were supposed to be contributing equally. There was always some excuse, unexpected expenses, a work thing. Her car needed something. Her credit card bill was higher than she'd thought. I pulled exactly $11,000 out and transferred it to my personal checking account. Legal, clean, mine. Not a penny more than I'd contributed. Then I opened a new browser tab and booked a one-way flight to Tokyo Narita, leaving from Logan International at 11:55 p.m. tonight. 8 hours from now. $1,400 on a credit card that only had my name on it. I wasn't running away heartbroken. I was collecting what belonged to me and walking out the door with my head up. My phone started ringing before I even left the server room. Jennifer's name flashed on the screen with that photo I'd taken of her last summer at the beach, smiling and carefree and beautiful. I let it go to voicemail. Then it rang again immediately, and again. I silenced it and slipped it into my pocket. I finished my shift like nothing had happened, closed out 3 support tickets, helped Maya troubleshoot a switch configuration that was giving her grief, told my supervisor I had a family emergency and needed to use my vacation days starting immediately, all 2 weeks' worth that I'd been hoarding for the Japan trip that was never going to happen now. He barely looked up from his own screen. Sure, fine, just send me an email so I have it in writing. I sent the email from my phone while walking to my car. Then I drove home to the apartment I rented alone, the lease with only my name on it, even though Jennifer had been staying there most nights for the past 10 months and had half her wardrobe in my closet and her toothbrush in my bathroom. When I unlocked the door, the apartment felt different, smaller, like I was seeing it clearly for the first time in months. Her stuff was everywhere, shoes by the door, makeup on the bathroom counter, a stack of her mail on the kitchen table that she kept meaning to sort through but never did. I started packing. 1 suitcase, 1 week's worth of clothes, my laptop, my passport, the external hard drive with all my important files backed up. While I packed, I finally listened to the voicemails. The first one was almost calm, almost reasonable. Noah, hey, can you call me back when you get this? There's been a little mix-up with the bank account and I need to talk to you about it. A mix-up, like it was some clerical error and not me deliberately taking my own money back. The second one had an edge to it, a sharpness underneath the words. Noah, seriously, I'm at the bail bondsman's office right now, and the transfer isn't going through right. Can you fix it? I'm kind of in the middle of something here. Fix it, like I was tech support for her life. The third one was pure panic, no pretense left. Noah, answer your goddamn phone. I only have enough to pay the bondsman's fee. I can't cover the full bail amount. He's still sitting in a cell, and I look like a complete idiot because I told him I had this handled. Just put it back, okay? We were going to go to Japan anyway. We can go later, next spring or something. Just put the money back, and I'll replace it next month. I absolutely promise. I sat on the edge of my bed and played that last one 3 times in a row. Not, he's scared in there. Not, please help me because I care about him and he needs support. Not even, this is important to me. Just, I look like a complete idiot. That's what she said. That's what mattered to her. Her image. Her credibility with Eli. Not him, not me, just how she appeared. I didn't call back. I didn't text. I finished packing methodically, checking off a mental list. I left my apartment key on the kitchen counter along with a note I'd printed out before leaving work. Lease is in my name only. You are not authorized to be here. Do not come back. Your things will be boxed and left with the building manager. Then I drove to Logan Airport, parked in long-term parking, and walked into the international terminal with my single suitcase and my boarding pass on my phone. The flight was 13 hours long, cramped in a middle seat between a businessman who snored and a college kid who watched movies without headphones at low volume. I didn't sleep at all. I didn't want to. I sat there with a warm ginger ale I'd gotten from the flight attendant and watched the route map on the seatback screen in front of me, watching that little airplane icon crawl across the Pacific Ocean 1 pixel at a time, and I felt lighter than I had in 6 months. The plane had Wi-Fi, expensive but functional. Jennifer kept texting. I watched them come in like watching a storm system develop on a weather radar. Where are you? Are you seriously ignoring me right now after what you just did? I get it, you're mad, but we can talk about this when you calm down and think rationally. This is emotional abuse, Noah. You're punishing me for trying to help someone who needed it. That last one made me laugh out loud. The businessman next to me stirred and cracked one eye open, annoyed. I didn't care. Emotional abuse. I was committing emotional abuse by not letting her spend my money on her ex-boyfriend's bail. The logic was stunning. I didn't respond to any of it. I just watched the messages stack up and took screenshots of the particularly ridiculous ones. When the plane finally landed at Narita, it was raining, a steady gray drizzle that matched the jet lag settling into my bones. I took the train into central Tokyo, navigating the subway system with a combination of Google Maps and pointing at things, and checked into a capsule hotel in Shinjuku that cost $40 a night. The capsule was barely bigger than a coffin, but it was clean and quiet, and nobody there knew me or cared about my drama. I slept for 12 hours straight, the kind of deep, dreamless sleep I hadn't had in months. When I woke up, I had 47 unread messages and 11 missed calls. I lay there in my capsule, staring at the curved white ceiling 6 inches from my face, and deleted the call log without listening to any of the voicemails. Then I started reading the texts in chronological order, watching Jennifer cycle through every manipulation tactic in the book. Confusion first. I don't understand what's happening. Did I do something wrong? Can you please just talk to me? Then anger. You're a coward. You're literally running away instead of having an adult conversation. Then victimhood. I can't believe you do this to me. I'm staying at Sarah's place tonight because you locked me out of our apartment. I have nowhere to go. Not our apartment. Mine. The lease had my name on it, singular, because when we'd talked about her officially moving in 6 months ago, she'd said she wasn't ready for that level of commitment yet and needed to maintain her independence. But she'd stayed there 4 or 5 nights a week anyway, using my Wi-Fi, eating my groceries, leaving her stuff scattered across my closet and bathroom like she was marking territory. I'd been fine with it at the time. That's the part that made my jaw clench now, sitting in a capsule hotel on the other side of the planet. I'd been completely fine with the arrangement because I'd thought we were building towards something real. I'd thought the commitment would come eventually, that we were on the same page about our future even if the timeline was a little vague. Turns out we were building towards something, just not the same thing. I opened my banking app and started cutting lines. Removed Jennifer as an authorized user on my credit card. I'd forgotten I'd even added her until I saw her name there in the account settings. Just for emergencies, she'd said when she'd asked. Like if I need to pick something up for both of us and my card isn't working. There had been a lot of emergencies over the past 8 months. Dinners out, clothes shopping, a spa day with her friends. Then I logged into my car insurance portal and canceled the automatic payment I'd set up for her policy. Her car, her insurance, but somehow it had ended up being charged to my credit card because hers had fraud issues that month, and she'd pay me back as soon as it got sorted out. She hadn't paid me back. Not once. Not even partially. I sent a single text to my landlord. Jennifer Jennings is no longer authorized to enter my apartment or access the building. If she shows up, please do not let her in. I'll handle retrieving her belongings later. He responded within 10 minutes. Got it. You okay, Noah? Yeah, thanks for asking. Then I sent Jennifer a message, the only one I planned to send. We're done. Do not enter my apartment, do not use my accounts, do not contact me again. I powered off my phone completely after that, just held down the button until the screen went dark. Then I spent the next 2 days walking around Tokyo in the rain, eating convenience store rice balls and drinking hot coffee from vending machines, sitting in quiet temples where nobody knew me and nobody cared about my problems, and I could just exist without explaining myself. It was the best 2 days I'd had in over a year. I turned my phone back on at a small ramen shop in Kyoto 3 days later. I'd taken the bullet train down, watching the countryside blur past the windows, and found a place that served tonkotsu ramen in portions large enough to feed 2 people. The messages had multiplied like bacteria in a petri dish. Jennifer had moved through anger and desperation and landed somewhere in the territory of righteous outrage. You canceled my car insurance? Are you actually kidding me right now? I could get pulled over, I could get in an accident, and you're just going to leave me completely uninsured? That's illegal, Noah. You're literally putting me in danger, and you don't even care. Not my problem. Not my car. Not my responsibility to insure a vehicle I didn't own and didn't drive. She'd also tried a new angle, one that made my stomach turn. I don't know what you think I did, but you're being completely insane about this. Eli needed help. He's like family to me. I've known him since college. I thought you'd understand that. I thought you were better than this, more mature, more capable of seeing the bigger picture. I stared at that message for a long time, reading it over and over while my ramen got cold in front of me. Family. She'd used that exact word in the original text, too. You understand. I'd understood, all right. I'd understood perfectly. There were other messages in the thread, ones from a number I didn't recognize. When I scrolled up and checked the first one, I realized it was Eli himself. Hey man, Jennifer told me what happened with the money. Look, I know this whole situation is awkward for everyone involved, but I just want to say thanks for being cool about everything. She really cares about you, you know. You're a good guy. Then, a day later, the tone shifted. Dude, seriously? You pulled all the money out? That's really messed up. Jennifer's completely freaking out now. She's crying and everything. Is that what you wanted? Then, that morning, full aggression. You're a coward and a child, hiding behind your phone like a little boy. If you were any kind of real man, you'd come talk to her face to face instead of playing these games. I almost laughed out loud in the ramen shop. This guy was texting me from jail, or freshly out of it on bond he couldn't afford, and he was lecturing me about being a man. The irony was spectacular. I took careful screenshots of every single message from both of them, backed them up to 3 different cloud services. Then I called Maya. She picked up on the second ring. I could hear the familiar background noise of the office. Phones ringing, and people talking, and the eternal hum of the server room fans. Noah? Where the hell are you? Your supervisor's been asking questions, and Jennifer actually showed up at the office yesterday looking for you. She seemed pretty upset. I'm in Japan. Wait, what? You're in Japan right now? Yeah, Kyoto specifically. Long story. I'm using those vacation days I had saved up. There was a long pause. I could hear keyboard clicks in the background, Maya probably working while talking to me. Okay? Are you okay? Like, actually okay? Yeah, I'm finally okay. Really okay. Another pause, longer this time. You sound different. Different how? I don't know. Calmer. But also, I don't know. Dangerous? Like you've made a decision about something and nothing's going to change your mind. I smiled at that, watching steam rise from my untouched ramen bowl. Maybe I am dangerous now. What happened with Jennifer? She used our vacation savings to try to bail out her ex-boyfriend. Told me after she'd already committed to it. Framed it like I should be supportive. Jesus Christ. Yeah. So I took my half of the money and left. Came here by myself. Good, Maya said firmly. Good for you. She's been using you for months. Everyone could see it except you. I know. We talked for a few more minutes. She filled me in on work gossip and technical issues and asked if I was coming back soon. I told her I had another week on my vacation time, and I planned to use every single day of it. When I hung up, I sat there with my ramen finally cooling to an edible temperature and thought about what came next. I'd cut off her access to my money, I'd removed her safety net, I'd made sure she couldn't just slide back into my apartment and my life like nothing had happened. But that wasn't enough. Not nearly enough. She'd tried to use me, she'd tried to make me fund her rescue operation for another man. She talked about family and understanding and support when what she really meant was, shut up and pay for my mistakes. I booked a return flight to Boston for 3 days out. I had some things to finish here. When I got back to Boston, it was cold and gray and raining, the typical October weather that made you want to stay inside with coffee and never leave. I went straight from Logan to my apartment, expecting to find the locks changed or the door kicked in or something dramatic. Nothing had changed. The landlord had done his job. Jennifer's things were gone, neatly boxed up and left with the building manager like I'd requested over email. My apartment was exactly as I'd left it, maybe a little dusty, but mine again. I dropped my suitcase by the door, took a long hot shower, changed into clean clothes that didn't smell like airplane and capsule hotel soap, and then made a phone call I'd been putting off. Brian Jennings, Jennifer's older brother. I didn't particularly like Brian. He was loud, opinionated, worked in HVAC installation and talked about it constantly, and he'd made it pretty clear at family dinners that he thought I was too soft for his sister. She needs someone who'll push back, he'd said once after a few beers. Someone with a spine. But Brian was also honest to a fault, and he didn't put up with nonsense from anyone, including family. He picked up on the third ring. "Noah," he said, and his voice sounded tired and unsurprised. "I heard you two broke up." "Yeah. Jennifer says you abandoned her, took all the money and ran off to Japan without warning. She mentioned why I left? Something about you not understanding her need to help an old friend in crisis. She made it sound like you were jealous and controlling." I almost laughed. "She say anything about Eli? The ex-boyfriend?" "Yeah, she mentioned him. Said he needed bail money." "She tell you where she was planning to get that bail money?" Brian was quiet for a long moment. I could hear traffic noise in the background, like he was in his truck. "From you?" "From our shared vacation fund, without asking. Just informed me she was doing it and expected me to be supportive." "Christ." He sighed heavily. "Look, I don't really care if you two are together or not. That's your business. But Jennifer's been lying to a lot of people lately, and I'm tired of covering for her or pretending I don't know what's going on." "What do you know?" "You know she co-signed a car loan for Eli, right? About 8 months ago?" I sat up straighter in my chair. "She what?" "His credit was complete garbage. Couldn't get approved on his own, not even for a used car. So she signed with him as a co-borrower. It's a Dodge Challenger, black, loud as hell with an aftermarket exhaust. You've probably seen it around. Anyway, if he misses payments, it hits her credit. If the car gets repoed, it hits her credit. If he ends up sitting in jail and can't make the monthly payments, guess who the bank comes after for collections?" I didn't say anything. I was too busy fitting the pieces together in my head, watching the whole picture come into focus. "She wasn't trying to bail him out because she's noble or loyal or whatever story she's selling," Brian continued. "She was trying to bail him out because if he sits in jail for too long, he loses his job on that cruise ship. And if he loses his job, those car payments stop coming. And when they stop coming, the bank starts making phone calls to the co-signer." "And her boss cares about financial responsibility," I said slowly. "Exactly. She works at that fancy travel agency, the one that handles high-end clients. Rich people booking luxury vacations. Her boss is obsessed with the company image, makes everyone maintain good credit scores, calls it financial trustworthiness or some corporate buzzword. If Jennifer's credit tanks because of a repossessed car tied to her ex-boyfriend, she's probably getting fired, or at minimum not getting the promotion she's been angling for." I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. So she was using my money to protect herself. Bingo. And she framed the whole thing as helping family, as being compassionate and loyal. She's real good at that. Always has been. She can sell anything if she believes it herself first. I thanked Brian and hung up. Then I sat there for a long time, staring at nothing, feeling something cold and sharp settle in my chest. She hadn't been choosing Eli over me romantically. She hadn't been torn between two men. She'd been choosing herself, using me as a firewall, as a source of funding, so she wouldn't have to eat the consequences of her own terrible financial decision. That was somehow worse. Worse than if she'd just been cheating for love or excitement or passion. This was cold, calculated, mercenary. I stood up, grabbed my keys and my jacket, and headed out into the rain. It took me less than an hour to find Eli. Brian had given me the address of the parking garage where he kept the Challenger overnight, a public lot downtown near the courthouse and the bail bondsman's office. I drove past it twice, slowly, scoping out the layout and the security cameras and the patterns of foot traffic. The Challenger was easy to spot, even in the dim garage lighting. Black paint, tinted windows, chrome accents, aftermarket wheels that probably cost more than a mortgage payment, the kind of car a guy drives when his ego is bigger than his bank account. I parked my boring sedan on the street 2 blocks away and walked back to the garage. Found a shadowy corner near the stairwell where I could see the Challenger but wouldn't be immediately visible to anyone approaching it, and I waited. Around 9 p.m., I heard them before I saw them. Voices echoing in the concrete space, one male and one female, both agitated. They came around the corner near the elevators, and there they were. Jennifer and Eli walking toward the Challenger, and they were clearly in the middle of an argument. "I told you I'd handle it," Jennifer was saying, her voice tight and high-pitched. "I told you I had it covered." "Yeah, well, you didn't," Eli shot back. "I sat in that cell for 2 extra days because you couldn't get your boyfriend to cooperate." "He's not my boyfriend anymore." "No kidding. I wonder why." Eli's voice dripped with sarcasm. "Maybe because you tried to steal his money to bail me out? You think that might have something to do with it?" "I didn't steal anything. It was our money. We were saving it together." "For your little vacation, yeah, you mentioned that about 50 times. But you know what? He saw through your act. He knew exactly what you were doing." "What I was doing? I was trying to help you." "No," Eli said, and his voice went cold. "You were trying to help yourself. You were trying to keep your credit score from tanking so you wouldn't lose your precious job. Don't pretend this was about me." Jennifer stopped walking. "That's not fair, isn't it? You co-signed that loan because you wanted me to owe you something. You wanted leverage. And now it's biting you in the ass, and you're mad that your safety net boyfriend saw through it." "Don't call him that." "Why not? That's exactly what he was. Your backup plan. Your walking wallet." I'd heard enough. I stepped out of the shadows and started walking toward them, my footsteps echoing on the concrete. They didn't notice me at first. They were too focused on each other, on their argument, on their mutual resentment. I got within 20 feet before Eli finally caught movement in his peripheral vision and turned. His expression went from anger to surprise to something trying very hard to be intimidating. He straightened up, puffing out his chest, spreading his stance a little wider. All performance. "Well, well," he said, his voice loud and carrying in the empty garage. "Look who decided to show up. The man himself." Jennifer turned, and her face went absolutely pale. All the color drained out of it. "Noah." "Evening," I said calmly. Eli took a step toward me, trying to use his height advantage. He had about 3 inches on me, but he was soft around the middle, his tough guy act undermined by the fact that he'd clearly never been in an actual fight in his life. "You got a lot of nerve coming here after what you pulled." I didn't answer him. I just stood there, hands in my pockets, looking at him. Really looking, taking in the details. The expensive but poorly maintained haircut. The designer jeans that were a size too tight. The cologne that was just a little too strong. Everything about him screamed desperate performance. "Say something," Eli snapped, apparently uncomfortable with my silence. I walked past him, didn't even look at him as I passed, just walked straight to the Challenger, deliberately casual, like I had every right to be there. "Hey," Eli said, his voice rising as he followed me. "Hey, don't touch that car." I didn't respond. I popped the trunk of my sedan where I'd parked it earlier, reached inside, and pulled out a tire iron. The heavy metal kind designed to provide leverage for loosening lug nuts on highway-sized wheels. About 2 feet long, substantial weight. I walked back to the Challenger. "What the hell are you doing?" Eli's voice had gone up an octave. I placed the curved end of the tire iron against the driver's side door, right below the handle, and dragged it backward in one long, slow, deliberate motion. The sound was absolutely spectacular. Metal on metal, high-pitched and screaming, the kind of noise that made your teeth ache and your spine cringe. Sparks flew where the iron gouged through the clear coat, through the paint, into the bare metal underneath. People on other levels of the garage turned to look. A car alarm went off somewhere nearby, triggered by the noise. "What the hell?" Eli shouted, his voice breaking. "Stop! Stop it!" I kept going. Dragged the tire iron all the way from the door handle to the rear quarter panel, a deep, continuous gouge that tore through all the layers of paint and left bare metal exposed to the air. It would rust within days. The repair would cost thousands. Then I stopped and turned to face him, the tire iron still in my hand. Eli's face was crimson, his whole body trembling, fists clenched at his sides. "You're done. You hear me? You're absolutely done." I looked him directly in the eyes. Didn't blink, didn't smile, just stared at him until he started to shift his weight uncomfortably. Then I spoke, my voice calm and level and very clear. "You put a hand on me, on her, on anything with my name anywhere near it again, I keep going. This time through the windshield. You feel me?" He didn't move, just stood there, breathing hard through his nose, trying to decide if he was actually going to do anything or if this was all show. I waited. gave him the opportunity. Part of me almost wanted him to try something. He took a step back instead. Jennifer was frozen against the concrete pillar behind them, staring at the car, then at Eli, then at me, her expression cycling through shock and horror, and something that might have been fear. "This is insane," she finally whispered. "Noah, this is completely insane." "No," I said, still looking at Eli, watching him process the fact that he'd just been made to back down. "This is fair. This is what happens when you treat people like ATMs and expect no consequences." I turned and walked back to my car, tossed the tire iron in the trunk with a satisfying clang, got in, and drove away. In my rearview mirror, I could see Eli standing next to his ruined car, Jennifer beside him, both of them looking small and helpless under the fluorescent garage lights. I felt nothing. No guilt, no regret, just a cold, clean satisfaction. 2 days later, I was at Logan Airport again, this time with a ticket to Seattle. I'd decided to keep moving, keep using the vacation days I'd saved up over the past year. Why not? I had the money, I had the time, and I didn't have Jennifer around to drain either one anymore. I was in the departures terminal, standing in the security line with my boarding pass on my phone and my single carry-on bag, when I heard her voice behind me. "Noah." I turned slowly. There she was, and she looked absolutely wrecked. Hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, no makeup, yoga pants, and an oversized hoodie. Not the carefully curated, polished version of herself she usually presented to the world, and especially to her coworkers and clients. "We need to talk," she said. "No, we don't." "Yes, we do. You can't just do this. You can't just destroy everything and walk away like nothing happened. Watch me." She stepped closer, lowering her voice, apparently aware that people around us were starting to pay attention. "You left me with nothing. No money, no place to stay, no car insurance. You financially abused me, Noah. Do you understand that? What you did was abuse." I almost laughed. Almost. "I took my money out of a joint account. That's not abuse. That's exercising my legal right to my own funds. And I removed you from my credit cards and stopped paying for your expenses. That's called setting boundaries. You humiliated Eli. You vandalized his car. That's not boundaries. That's criminal behavior. He'll live. The car's insured, I'm sure." "You can't do this," she said again, her voice rising now, despite her obvious attempt to keep it down. People in line were definitely staring now, trying to pretend they weren't listening while absolutely listening. "We had plans. We were going to Japan together, remember? We were going to see the temples and try all the food, and it was going to be our trip. You can't just throw all of that away." I pulled out my phone, opened the voicemail app, scrolled to the one I'd saved and backed up in 6 different places, and hit play on speaker. Her voice, tinny and panicked and unmistakable, filled the space between us. "Noah, you took the money. I only have enough for the bondsman's fee. I can't get him out now. I look like a complete idiot. Just put it back." She lunged for the phone, trying to grab it out of my hand. I stepped back smoothly, holding it out of her reach, letting the voicemail keep playing. "This is what you are," I said, loud enough for the people around us to hear clearly. Not, "I can't leave him scared in a cell." Not, "Please help me because I love him and he's important to me." Just, "I look like a complete idiot." That's all this was, right? You protecting your image, you protecting your credit score, you using my money as a firewall so you wouldn't have to face the consequences of co-signing a loan for a guy who can't manage his own finances. She froze completely. Her face crumpled, and for a second I thought she might actually start crying right there in the security line. "That's not fair. You don't understand the whole situation." "Brian told me about the car loan. I understand perfectly." Her eyes went wide. "Brian had no right to tell you that. That's private family business. You made it my business when you tried to use my money to fix your mistake." "It wasn't like that," she said, but her voice had lost its strength. "It wasn't like that at all. It was exactly like that. You got financially tangled with your ex because you wanted some kind of leverage over him, or because you thought you were helping, or because you made a bad decision, I don't actually care which. And when that decision started to blow up in your face, when it threatened your job and your credit and your precious professional image, you decided to make it my problem. You decided to spend my money without asking, and you framed it as compassion. Noah, please." Her voice cracked. "Please. We can fix this. We can work through this. We can go back to how things were." "I don't want to go back. That's what you're not understanding. I don't want to go back to being your safety net. I don't want to go back to being the reliable boyfriend who pays for things and doesn't ask questions and just accepts whatever narrative you're selling that week." A commotion near the terminal entrance made both of us turn. Eli was striding through the automatic doors, face red with anger, eyes locked on me like a missile guidance system. "You," he snarled, pointing at me as he approached. "You think you can just walk away from this? You think there are no consequences for what you did?" I pocketed my phone and turned to face him fully, shifting my weight slightly, ready for whatever was about to happen. "Yeah, I do think that. You ruined my car. You humiliated me in front of Jennifer. You think that's just going to slide?" I pulled out my phone again, opened my photos, and turned the screen toward him so he could see it clearly. It was a picture I'd taken last night. I'd gone back to the garage, alone, after midnight, when no one was around and the security cameras had the worst angles. I'd used a screwdriver this time, something more precise, and carved one single word into the hood of the Challenger in letters 6 inches tall. Family. Eli stared at the photo. His jaw worked. His face transitioned from red to purple to something approaching white. His hands opened and closed at his sides. "Jennifer said you were family," I said, loud enough for the growing crowd of phone-wielding travelers to hear clearly. "She said, you understand. Well, now everybody understands. Now everyone knows exactly what you were to her. Not a boyfriend, not a romantic interest, just a financial liability she tried to make my problem." Jennifer made a choking sound behind me. Eli looked at her, then back at me, then at the phone screen again. His whole posture collapsed inward. Security was moving toward us now. 2 airport police officers in uniform with radios crackling. I didn't care. I had one more thing to say, and I was going to say it whether they arrested me afterward or not. I stepped in close enough that both Jennifer and Eli could hear me absolutely clearly, close enough that the people around us with their phones out could still catch most of it. "Here's how it's going to go from here," I said, my voice low and level and absolutely final. "You two stay out of my bank accounts, out of my apartment, out of my life. You don't touch me, you don't come near me. You don't use my name to borrow money or as a reference or for anything. Because next time, I don't touch the car. Next time, I send every screenshot I've collected, every voicemail, every text message where you two talked about using me, straight to your employer, Jennifer. And we both know how they feel about employees with credit problems and reputation issues. We both know how much they care about their company image when they're courting millionaire clients." Jennifer's face went completely white. Eli started to say something, his mouth opening, but whatever he'd planned never made it past his lips once he saw my expression. I'd already turned away from both of them. The security officers were approaching, but I had my boarding pass ready, my ID in hand. I was a ticketed passenger heading to my gate. I hadn't actually done anything illegal in the airport itself. Everything I'd said was protected speech, just facts and statements of intent. Behind me, I could hear Jennifer's voice, high and shaking and desperate, trying to explain the situation to the officers. I could hear Eli shouting something about property damage and criminal charges. I didn't look back. I walked toward the security checkpoint, showed my boarding pass and ID to the TSA agent, and stepped through into the secure area where they couldn't follow without tickets of their own. I was done with both of them. Done with their drama, their financial disasters, their manipulation. Done being the reliable safety net that caught them every time they jumped off a cliff of their own making. I had my money, my dignity, and my freedom. They had each other and the car loan and whatever consequences came from that. As far as I was concerned, that was more than fair.